Hi, this is Jeff Allison with Allison Customs. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this video.
This is a passenger side floor pan to firewall transition. So like where your feet would be up in the passenger side area on a 68 Mustang, 67 Mustang, same deal. And it's going in this car. Problem we're going to find is that even though the panel is as straight as it could be coming out of the box, really they don't fit the car very well. This particular car has a custom frame under it, and so that does make a few challenges on its own, but even the areas that should fit just don't quite do justice there. So I'm going to get it in place. So here we are with the panel back in place. Get it to focus. And as you can see up here next to the kick panel side, we've got a good inch and a half gap at the top. As we look over from the inside here, panel gap gets pretty crazy. Down there at the bottom where it meets the rocker panel, probably a half-inch gap. And only in a couple places here does it actually touch correctly. I'm going to edit this video so you'll get a lot of this moving around and be out of it. But you can see it doesn't really fit very well. Once we move around to the inside, you can see, so with it stamped pretty much where, or clamped pretty much where we want it, we've got quite a bit of light all the way up that panel side. And while the frame rails and stuff are custom, all of the rocker, inner rocker area, kick panel, everything, that's all pretty much the way the factory would have had it. And this panel should really just fit right, nice tight right up against that. So I'm going to show you the other side, what we have to do, and then I'll come back and show you how this one gets repaired. So here's the driver's side. You can see that there's almost no area where you can see any light in there at all. And what little bit you can, that'll all get seam sealed and filled. We had to come in and reshape everything around the original portion of the firewall that we kept. But the rest of this comes up against the inner rocker panel and all that. Fits nice and tight now. Come around from the other side where the sunlight's not so bright and get a little better view. You can see in here, we've basically rebent that flange, got it all nice and straight, and then down here we changed the level of the flange. It actually steps out about 1/8 of an inch extra above the inner rocker than below it, which makes it all fit nice and tight. And then got it all welded up. We've still got to grind all those welds down and make it look nice, but that's how it should fit. It's a nice fit along the frame rail there. Comes in, and so now the goal is to make this panel fit just like this other one, and go through that process. I'm going to see if I can show you where part of the problem lies. So I've drawn a silver line down this indented area here, and that's to give me a straight line just to work from, because in the end what's going to be able to be seen is not this side. Nobody will be able to know if the side over here is straight or a little out of square. What will be able to be seen is whether this rib lines up basically with the frame rail. And granted, you'd have to be looking, but for somebody who is, that's just something that would stand out if it wasn't straight. So right now, just laying the panel in here where things touch, got about 2 3/4 inches down here at the bottom, and just not even 6 inches later, we're up to about 2.5 inches. So we got about 1/4 inch that the panel is crooked in just that much time. And you can see down here, nice and tight up against the inner rocker, and again way up here at the top, we're out over 1 inch. So correcting that will give us a place to get this corrected. And to get this inch back where the panel will actually touch, we're probably going to get this rib area up against the frame something close to 3 or 3 1/4 inches. So we'll see how that works out. That means we've got to take this flange that came factory in here, take that flange back, straighten it back out, and then rebend the flange where everything will line up. So we'll get to that, and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, as you can see now, I've cut both the corners here. I'll try and get a little better view of that. See, I trimmed the sheet metal, or not trimmed it so much as I just cut it at the corners so that it would unfold a little easier. And then I straightened out the panel. And I know in the paint here with that glossy primer on it, it looks kind of wavy. I'm sure some of those waves are actually there, but most of that's smooth to the touch here. Just a little bit of a ridge right where that old seam was, or the old bend was. And what we're going to do is this area right in here fit pretty well right up against the panel. So we're going to use that as our baseline, but we're going to move it in about a ½ inch. I'm going to refold it, and the idea being that we get a straight line, which probably that ½ inch is going to come out real close to right about where the original bend was up here. And then so it'll be just rebend at that. And we're going to measure off that silver line that's on the back side of this panel. We're going to measure off that silver line we drew and get us a nice straight line for that. And then you can see now, with everything else already straightened out, you can see how this started down here and went at a pretty severe angle going up. So once we get this flange, this lower flange or side flange rebent, and we'll make room for this one, we'll redo this curve just a little bit, and then this will get straightened out. And one reason to go ahead and try and move this over some, like I said, it may come out right in there if we only come over a ½ inch towards the bottom side. May need to come over maybe a ¼ inch to do this bend, and that's just to leave us enough material in here so that when we bend it, there's actually some material out here on the flange, because right now it was coming in at such an angle that moving over, you know, it was what, an inch to an inch and a quarter off the side panel, we'd be out of sheet metal. We'd have to actually add metal to make this panel fit at all. So before we actually bend that, we're going to measure it, see what we need, and then we'll worry about this bottom panel. This bottom flange kind of did the same thing. It sloped back in towards the panel this direction from that. So we're going to again move that bend out this direction. So moving all of this in gives us more material on both of these smaller flanges. So get to that next and get our measurements, and we'll move forward. Okay, so quick update. Based on this line on the rib and a few measurements, I came up with about 3¼ inches away from that line would be the outside of the frame rail. So that's this gray line in the center of the screen now, right here. And measuring over to the inner rocker gave me this line. And then you can see up here, I've got a double line. So the line on the left side of the screen of that, that is set up the offset for where the inner rocker steps up. So I'll show you that on the car again. Then we're going to take it out, put a bend on this. I've already put a relief cut right here in the middle where the inner rocker stops, the top of it. I've relief cut both of the corners, and then I put a weld in there when I go back in and weld it all up. So I'll show you on the car here what the center relief cut and that double line is for. Then we'll go out and get the panel bent. Okay, so right here is why we put that relief cut in there in the second line. As the panel comes up this side, it's going to then make a step, which is about 1/8 inch, and then it's going to come up, and it actually happens way over here and comes up at an angle. And if I take you over to the other side over here, you can kind of already see where that's been done, where it comes around that. So that's what that relief cut and everything's for, and the second bend. So that just makes it fit a little nicer, probably a little better than it even would have factory, but that's the reason. Okay, so we've got the flange rebent, and I don't know what I was thinking. There was no way to put that in a brake because of the two opposing flanges there that go down to the floor and up onto the firewall. So that's all bent by hand. Basically just using hammers and dollies. You can get pretty much any shape you want, but and then I've pie cut that relief in the middle there to clear the the inner rocker panel, and trimmed up a couple of the other places a little bit. Fits pretty close now, but now as you can see, this flange is maybe a full 1.25 inches wide, and we really only need it to be about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to mark a line and then trim all of the excess off so that we get a nice straight finish, and then we'll punch some holes in it for welding and get it clamped into place. Give you another look at it, and then we'll go ahead and get all the primer ground off, and let's see what else we need to do. Put some weld through primer on it. Okay, so all the holes are punched. Of course, the panel's sitting upside down right now, so that'll be the top where it transforms into the firewall, and this part will be where it meets the floor. So you got everything holes punched, drilled, and then weld through primer on all of it. Got everything in there. The black primer ground off, weld through primer sprayed on it. Anywhere where it's going to be hidden from the future, so it would be difficult to try and get any primer or something, some kind of rust protection on it. So that's all done. Give this a few more minutes to dry, and then we'll get this panel clamped in place. Okay, so the panel's now in place. See, we got rid of almost all of the gap up through there. The little bit of light you're seeing through there is the transition area there between the inner rocker and the kick panel. A little bit of light there. We'll tighten that up with a hammer as we get close. And then the other little bit areas where you see it, that's actually the holes that have been punched and nothing's been welded up yet. So everything looks real tight, real nice now. Gonna fit real clean and fit straight. You take you around here to the firewall side, and you can see we need to pull that down just a little bit as we're clamping stuff, but everything will clamp up nice and tight, fit nice and clean, and give us a nice new floor pan. Now, here's where something changes, because I'm not quite ready to weld yet. That's because we're doing a flat firewall on this car, and if we stand right over here, you can see this kick panel stands out quite a bit further than the other side over there. And the intent was to get rid of all this area. So what we're going to do next is come in, cut along here, cut all this area out, and then new sheet metal will be going in right along the firewall there and give us a nice new flat panel. So while this panel's ready to go in, we're not ready to put it in because we got to get the firewall in, mark where this hump needs to be taken off, which I imagine will be like right in there. But we'll probably be cutting it way across here, cut there, and then flatten a bunch of this sheet metal and let it roll up on the inside in here, so that this, I guess you can kind of see a little bit right here, so that this whole kick out goes away. And that kick out was originally for the AC and heater box, and we're going to be using an aftermarket setup. So we'd rather just not have all that extra. Anyway, that's how we do it. Probably total project time here was about 1 hour and 15 minutes to get everything to where it is right now, ready to weld in. And I'll get on with you on another next week or so with a new video. Hopefully get the firewall in the whole thing here. Plan to do one big panel with a cutout for the brake master cylinder and the steering column. And other than that, one big panel all the way across.
Thanks for watching. Check AllisonCustomsOnline.com for updates on this project and many others.